Hello!
Hello, so today I wanted to make a video where I reverse the attention feminists get regularly back onto anti-feminists.
Oh, this should be good.
Now before I get started, I wanted to have a bit of a discussion happening since I'm only doing this to illustrate a point rather than to pick on anybody individually. For the sake of the original uploaders, I've obscured their voices and images from the video and have done my best to hide their identity for this project to the best of my ability.
Now see, this would kind of piss me off if it was me. As far as I'm concerned, if you're going to post something on YouTube that's your opinions and whatnot, then you're doing it with the understanding that people are going to see it. All manner of people are going to see it. So, to not cite the source, that would piss me off, because how can I tell what you're taking out of context? How can anybody else know what you're taking out of context? That would anger me a lot if somebody did that to me. I would be relentless against them if somebody were to have the balls to not cite my actual original video if they were doing a response to my video. That's just wrong.
I was very conflicted about starting this project since I don't believe that two wrongs make a right.
Yeah, well, welcome to the dark side, I guess.
I also think that many anti-feminists don't realise that with selectively choosing the right or perhaps the wrong people, you can make any demographic look however you want. Thus, I've chosen a group of anti-feminists that I considered low-hanging fruit.
Because why would you actually demonstrate it by showing all different types? No, you gotta pick the low-hanging fruit because that conveniently will make your point for you.
To illustrate a point. My point here is that we can make anti-feminists look bad using the same tactics anti-feminist channels use.
Like picking apart the points of views until they really don't have much credibility left and then making fun of them in a way that's supposed to be humorous. I don't think that's the direction you're going to wind up going in this.
But also mentioning that I find this dishonest and hurtful to the original people in the videos.
So all the more reason to just not cite them as a source.
My first example is a guy I found on YouTube with under 100 subscribers that is certainly anti-feminist, and I noticed since his video is unscripted that he doesn't really present an argument, instead coming off as silly while repeating himself.
Meet the first female Orthodox Jewish rabbi. Like, how fucking specific can you get? This is a 21-year-old, the first woman to lead Texas A&M's court delegates. Why does it matter if she's a female? Shut the fuck up. There's no fucking glass ceiling. Why do you make it such a big deal about this?
Okay, I'm gonna cut this here. She actually plays the guy's whole entire 2-minute video, and I don't think that the point she's trying to illustrate comes off the way that most anti-feminist YouTubers, at least the ones that I've seen, so the ones that are, you know, at least halfway decent, I guess, the ones with a lot of subscribers and whatnot, they wouldn't play the entire video if they were making fun of it. They wouldn't do it. They would do something more like this.
Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Shut up.
See, at least that's somewhat humorous. Kind of what they usually go for. Humor.
So from the clip just shown, you can see that I've added a counter for every time he says, "Shut up."
Yeah, it was 1/3 of the screen, we noticed.
Since for a 2-minute video it was a little bit excessive.
8 times? 8 times in 2 minutes? 8 times? That's not really excessive. That's a lot, but it's not really excessive. I mean, what if the title of his video was "Shut Up"? Again, not citing the source, you lose context. I don't know what he meant to say during that. Maybe that was his whole thing. His whole thing was "shut up." Maybe his channel name is "Shut Up." How am I supposed to know? You didn't cite him as a source. I have no context.
This man seems rather harmless all in all, but I see feminists who make videos like this one being targeted by anti-feminists all the time in order to make us look silly as a demographic.
Yeah, to poke fun. To be funny!
This is only to illustrate that not all anti-feminists make cogent arguments, and also not all want to have a reasoned debate.
Yup.
For my next example, I use a clip of a guy on YouTube that I think tends to regularly put his foot in his mouth and say some rather silly things.
Do I need to say it again?
I don't necessarily consider him evil or anything either.
And if I don't fucking comb it in the morning, yeah, I'm considered lazy too. So fuck off, bitch.
That was actually pretty funny.
So for my next example, I'm going to do something I've seen many anti-feminists do.
Like picking apart the points of views until they really don't have much credibility left, and then making fun of them in a way that's supposed to be humorous.
I'm going to find an example of an anti-feminist misspeaking and not knowing the correct pronunciation of a word. For clarification, I don't believe this is a fair indicator of somebody's intelligence, nor do I believe that this is presenting any kind of legitimate argument against the point being made.
You're kind of putting words in people's mouths there. I mean, I wouldn't say that that's always... I mean, again, it's for humor. It's to be funny. Nobody does that to belittle somebody else. It's generally they do their own discrediting of their points, and all the rest of it's just to joke around, just to have some fun.
I'm simply doing this to illustrate a point of my own.
This mentality, if you don't agree with feminism, and if you hold women accountable for their actions and the decisions that they make, you're somehow a misogynist.
My favorite that I've ever heard is misogynist.
One of many risks associated with making fun of someone's pronunciation in this manner is you risk making fun of many different groups, like people with speech impediments, intellectually disabled people, people who don't speak English as their first language, and many, many other groups I'm sure I'm forgetting.
That's an awfully large leap to make there. I would say that if you're making fun of somebody mispronouncing a word, you're making fun of that person mispronouncing a word. If somebody's going to be wackadoo enough to somehow draw the conclusion that, oh, he's making fun of me too because I would mispronounce that word, that's your problem, man. Don't put words in somebody else's mouth.
It's also possible for somebody to simply read a word and not know how to correctly pronounce it because they've only ever read it, and I hardly think that reading makes somebody unintelligent. Nonetheless, I see it as implicit in making fun of someone's mispronunciation of the word that the person is somewhat foolish or unintelligent.
Again, putting words in people's mouths and putting your own expectations on others of what you think things do and don't mean. That's not the person who did the thing in the first place fault that you took it the wrong way.
Which I don't believe is a fair representation. I also think that one other tactic I often see anti-feminists use is making fun of the appearance of a feminist. Given that this is something I intensely dislike, I'll not actually be using this tactic myself, not even to make a point.
Well, it seems to me like you need a dose of stick-to-itiveness.
All I will say is this. Many anti-feminists on YouTube do not actually show their real face, and yet they sit behind that making fun of the appearances of others.
I don't.
I, of course, don't reveal my face either, but I'm also not going out of my way to attack people based on their appearance.
Of course, you are also using what feminists would call a hypersexualized caricature of a woman with the thigh gap and the really, really skinny waist. So, aren't you just as bad, like, as the rest of us, at least some degree? It sucks when everything gets turned back on you, huh?
I believe that the merit of somebody's arguments should be independent of their appearance, and using someone's appearance against them is just childish and bullying.
I agree with everything except for the bullying part, unless you're doing it in a way that would be considered bullying. But doing it with one time, that's not bullying. Doing it over and over and over and over and over again endlessly, that's bullying. Let's get our fucking facts straight here.
A common thing I see from many anti-feminist YouTubers is also fat-shaming. I again won't be providing any imagery or anything to accompany this, but I can think of a few prominent YouTube anti-feminists who themselves are overweight or even obese, and so not only is it fat-shaming and it's mean, but in a lot of cases it can also be hypocritical.
Yeah, those guys are boobs. What are you gonna do?
It's also worth noting that someone being fat should not invalidate their opinion either.
Yep, I would agree with that as well. Ultimately, I think that saying I'm going to go into the dark side and show you why the dark side's wrong, first of all, you can't ever win making a video like this. You just can't. And secondly, I don't think you get the point of most anti-feminist videos. There are the shitheads out there. There are. They're on both sides. Both sides have wackadoos and shitheads. But, you know, for the most part, the small people aren't getting made fun of like they're serious. They're getting made fun of just because they're funny and to make fun of people that are saying and doing funny things. But I think, you know, most anti-feminists, the bigger channels, they tease people like Lacey Green and Francesca and Marina Shut Up, some of the bigger channels, and they pick apart their arguments and screw with them on the same level that they screw with the little channel people. But the little people on the smaller channels, the kids nowadays, the high schoolers and whatnot that make these videos and they just truly don't understand what they're talking about, it's to show how far it's gone and how deep it's ingrained in our society now that children are thinking in this way. I mean, they're middle schoolers that are doing projects on this. I never thought about feminism as anything as being wrong when I was a kid because it was about equal rights, back when it was about equal rights. And when rights equaled out, it's turned into this new thing. And to hear these kids say these things, it's horrifying. And I think picking it out, especially for the humor of it, it's just teasing. And you deserve it if you're going to put that kind of shit on YouTube. Somebody's going to see it. This is the real world. If you say something stupid, somebody's going to laugh at you. So, I don't know. But I don't think you get the point that most of these videos are made. Like, Bearing is humor through and through. And Undoomed, he does things to make funny. Waz with his little cartoon smiley face with the beer. These are all joke channels. They're comedy. And you're taking them far too seriously. And that is what is wrong with feminism.